Good Saturday morning, everybody. I'm Micheline from Americana Quilting. We do custom quilting and long arming, and you can find a link to our website in the description below. On our website, you'll find all of our patterns, you'll find our long arming service, you'll find fabric. So go check that out. There'll be a link in the description below, or just go to Americana Quilting. And we're adding new fabric all the time. Today, I'm going to do a fun, easy little quilt. I think it would be really cute to, in the summertime, put on the back of your couch or something like that. Maybe even hang it on the wall, who knows, because it's a very summertime inspired quilt. It's so precious. Look at this precious little quilt. Isn't that going to be so much fun? And how much easier can you get than a split rail block? So this is going to come together really fast. I've got some of my fabrics pulled out to make this. I've got a collection of yellows and a little brown. I've got a black and white, and I think I'll use this yellow for the bee. I've got some selections of blues. I am ready to get started. You know, when I was in Paducah, the bee is going to be an applique. Let me start that. Let me go back a little bit. This bee is going to be appliqué, okay? And there'll be a pattern for that on the web. There'll be a PDF pattern for this on the website. So the bee is going to be appliqué. And while I was in Paducah, we kept seeing all of this really neat wool used in appliqué, where you don't then have to go and appliqué it down because it doesn't, there's no fraying to it. And I thought, well, that's really neat, but I really don't know what I would do with it just at this particular point. This would have been a perfect place for wool because bees are fuzzy and so is wool. Wouldn't that have been neat? Anyway, so if you have some wool, think about making a bee out of it. Anyway, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is cut down some strips to make this split rail fence. So let's get to doing that. Okay, let's get to work first on these split rails. So the first thing I've done is to cut a collection of 2.5-inch strips. Here they are right here. I've got 4 colors. Okay, so I've got those cut into 2.5-inch strips. Now we're going to piece those strips together. So these 2 are going to go together, and whoopsies. These 2 are going to go together, and then we'll sew them together, okay? Let's start with these guys. Put them together, right sides together, simple. If you can get your fingers to working. And on these, I don't really think there's a right or a wrong side, so I'm not giving that too much thought, okay? And I'm going to do just that simple 1/4-inch seam. I'm going to try not to pull them or anything. Let it go, because you want that 1/4-inch seam to be pretty dead on, because you want these to finish a certain width, and then you'll cut the height to that width. Does that make sense? So you want them all to come out the same. So you want to be careful with your seam allowance. That almost done. Now we're going to put these 2 together. Such a fun way to get a quilt going together really quickly is to do this split rail fence. And you see, I'm not pulling. I'm coming back here a good distance, pinching it with my fingers, but I'm not pulling the machine. And then I'm just guiding it on through. Like that. Okay. little off there. Put that back where he needs to be. Okay. Find that one split. Trim that. Now we're going to put the two medium tones together, like so. Okay. Then we're going to sew that together, same way we did the other ones. Okay. Spread those apart and come back here. Put them, boom, like so. Okay. Now when I go to press this, I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to take it over to my big table because these are long strips and it would just be a pain to do it on this little surface here. See how fast that is? This quilt is going to go by so quickly. Okay, and now we have our strip piece selection, strip unit, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and press all the seams away from the lighter fabric, so I'm going to push them all in that direction. It does not matter which way you press this. The seams are never going to, you're never going to have to nest seams together because one goes this way and one goes this way. Again, so I'm going to take this over to the long table or to the big table and get all these seams pressed, and then all we're going to have to do is cut them in 8.5 inch strips because this is now 8.5 inches. So we're just going to cut them 8.5 this way, and then that block is done. So fast. Let me get back to you. All right, so here we've got our strip piece, and I'm going to start from the back. I'm going to lay it out nice and straight. I'm going to kind of use my edge of my table as a guide to making sure this is really straight. And then I'm going to take and anchor my fabric just by putting the iron on it and gently pulling that the furthest piece away from it. And all I'm doing right now is just gently turning those seams over. And I'm pulling it apart a little bit so that there won't be those folds in the seams. Now I'm just going to flip this over. And again, using my edge of my table, make sure that it's all nice and straight. I'm feeling it to make sure that there are no seams that have been knotty and turned over. And I'm going to press it this way first one more time, like so. And then give it a nice press this way. Now, I should be able to get, I've calculated this, and I should be able to get 5 cuts of 8.5 inches from this, and then these blocks are done. I only needed 5 strip sets to make this entire quilt. Let's go over to the table and get this cut. Okay, I've got my strip set laid out on my cutting board. I've put it very carefully along a line. I'm now going to clean up this edge, okay? And now I need strips of 8.5 inches. So let's take that measurement or count that measurement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5 is going to be right here. So I'm going to put this, my ruler on that 8.5 inch mark, like so. And there's one completed block. Let's do that again. Here's my 1/2 inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. And put it on 8 this time. Like that. And there's another one. All right. So now I'm just going to continue doing that to all my strip sets, and then it'll be time to cut the blues and put it on the design wall. Okay, let's get our blues cut. I've got 3 different blues here, and I've ironed just a little piece of them because we just need the one strip. So right now I'm going to straighten up this one edge. There we go. And then I'm going to measure 8.5 inches over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. I'm going to have to move these guys out of the way. Didn't think about that. Okay, let's move him and move him. All right, there we go. Now I can do 8.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5 right there. Right there like that. And of course I'm using my new True Cut rotary cutter and this fun ruler that goes along with it. You see has a lip on it. And what that does is this groove right here on your rotary cutter, that fits right in that groove, or right in that ridge, and then your line is going to be super straight, as long as you hold your ruler straight. Let me count again now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to put that right there, like so. And this ruler's got some really nice grippies on the bottom of it that really do a great job of holding it in place. Now I've got some nice precision cuts. Get that out of the way. And let's go ahead and get this turned around. And I need 3 cuts. This one just happens to be a lot smaller than the other, so I'm just going to scoot him down. Okay. Then we'll get this lined up nice. And let's clear off this section here, like so. Okay, do 1 cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. It's right here. The reason I flipped that ruler over is it has a little 1/2 inch measurement that's real handy to do. Okay. Now, that should be 2 of each of these. So since I don't want to waste a bunch of fabric, I'm going to open these guys up like so. Like this. And line them up. I'll probably go ahead and just neaten up that edge again, just so that I don't have to worry about that too much, okay? Now I'm going to put it on a line. That looks nice. Let's neaten up this edge again. Like so. And let's count 8.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. It's right here. I moved it a little bit. Okay. There we go. And those should be all the pieces of blue that I need. Let's go over to the design wall and get all this put up. All right, I got it on the design wall. I'm standing back, making sure that I don't have anything turned the wrong way, and I don't. So now it's time to get them all sewn together in rows, and then sew all those rows together, and then it'll be time to create our bee. That'll be fun. Okay, let's work on our applique. This is our applique right here. Let's see if I can get it where you can see it. So I've got a head and a couple of antennas. I've got 2 wings, a body, and then a little trail of bee steps, okay? So I've already marked my heat and bond light. I don't know if you can see that. I've already marked the body and the little trail. We're going to be working on now are the wings, the head, and the antenna. And here's how you do it. You just slip it underneath that heat and bond, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to take, now I can see through there, and I am going to mark all those lines of all of my pieces, and then I'm going to cut them out, and I'm going to cut them out leaving some extra heat and bond all the way around it. I don't want to cut it down on the line just yet. I want to be able to iron that onto my fabric first. And of course, with the wings, I'm going to have to flip this piece over and draw the wing in the opposite direction, and I'll show you that in just a second. But you see how fast this goes. I am almost done with this piece of paper here. Heat and bond is such a great thing. It has made applique so doable. You know, previously to things like heat and bond and the way we do applique now, all the needle turn applique, man, unless you were really good with a needle, that was something that was just kind of ended up out of your wheelhouse. Okay, now I'm going to take my pattern and I'm going to flip it over, and I can still see that wing. And let's see if he'll fit right in here. He will fit right there. Okay, let me get him drawn again. Kind of hard to see right through there. I might use a little ruler to attach those two dots, because there's a logo right in there. It got in my way. But now I can come up here. Oh, where's my other one? Right there. Right there. Okay. Now I can have straighter lines. Not that it matters. It is free-form applique, and it's just supposed to be fun. All right. I've got all those pieces drawn now. Now, I don't, like I said, I don't want to cut them on the line. I want to make it a little bit, let's get that out of there before I cut that. I want to make it a little bit bigger than the pieces. I want to cut it out a little bit larger than all my pieces are. This will help me in the ironing process. So I'm not being terribly careful, just cutting those pieces out. My two little funny antennae. Okay. Now, you notice that what I call the B trail. Let me show you again. This little trail that's leading off the quilt. Well, rather than create that in 5 or 6 or 7 pieces, I just created one long curved strip, and I can cut that wherever I want it. So that'll help us out a little bit. Okay. There we go. And there's the body of our bee. Now we're going to take all these over to my ironing surface and attach them to the pieces of fabric that we'll use to create our bee. So I'm over here at my table that I can press on. I've got my wings laid out on some white paper, or on some white fabric, and you can see that my fabric is larger than what the paper is, because if I press that heat and bond off, like say if I let that stay out there, it's going to stick to my table, and I don't want to do that. So I've got my head, my antenna, and my wings. So let's get that done first. Now, we only have to hold this on there for about 2 seconds, is what my heat and bond says. And it should adhere that very nicely to the fabric. And this is with no steam. There we go. So now that's onto my fabric. Okay. Now I'll do that to the rest of these, but I wanted to show you, I have made a strip set of gold and black for my bee's body. Okay. And I want the gold at the head. So I know that this is the head. And it just fits on there, okay? It just fits on my little piece here. So how am I going to keep this from? Oh, I better turn this over too before I press it to the right side of my strip set. And that's all this is. It's just a strip set, and you'll get directions for that in the PDF. Okay. But there we go. There, we got it fitting. Now, how do I keep the heat and bond from not melting onto my workroom table? I'm just going to take these little pieces of fabric that were in the trash and put them underneath the bee, wherever I need it to. I need that heat and bond not touching my table. Okay, like that. And now let's go to, oh, you know what? I see a little bit more of a spot right there. Well, I'll just be really careful with this. Let me go like so. I don't want to get right in here. That would be a bad thing. Spend about 2 seconds on that. Go this way. 2 seconds. Okay. Almost got it down. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our pressed on heat and bond and take a pair of scissors that you don't mind cutting fabric with. Well, I'm just going to have to take my good scissors because I can't stand cutting with something that doesn't cut. And now I'm going to cut on that line, on that drawn line, okay? And thankfully, when we cut, we're a lot straighter than we are when we draw, right? Because I know my drawn line was a little bit squiggly. Okay. Okay. There we go. All right, one wing done. Now I'll get the rest of these done, and we'll take it back over to the design board, and we'll get everything put in place with just some. Well, actually, I think we better bring the quilt over here because we're going to have to press on it. Okay, we'll do that. Let me get the rest of these cut out. We'll bring the quilt over here and get it laid out with the bee and everything on it. Okay. All right, I brought my quilt over. I love all these blues. They remind me of the Carolina blue skies. So I've placed my bee. I've taken the heat and bond paper part off of these pieces right here, but they're not ironed down. Now I'm just trying to take off the paper off of these wings. And you see what I just did? I just kind of did that. At that point, it kind of brings it away from the edge, and you should be able to get your fingernail, even these big, thick acrylic fingernails, underneath of it, and voila, it just pulls it right apart like that. And then he's going to go just slightly over the head piece, just slightly over everything, and he's just going to fit right there like that. Let's do that to this one. See if I have as good a luck getting this one off. If you can't get it off with your fingernails on the side like that, you can always take a pin and score the back of it really gently. Okay, there's that. Now we've got this piece here, but we're gonna get to that in just a second. Let me get my iron out. And now this takes 6 seconds of hold. Let's see, do I like where everything's placed? I think I do. So now I'm just gonna set that down there for 6 seconds. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006. Okay. If it's not on there just perfect, remember you're going to be using like a satin stitch or something like that to because there was almost a gap there, but had there been a gap, it wouldn't have been a big deal because I'm going to use a satin stitch to applique all of this down. Isn't this turning out adorable? My goodness. So cute. And like I said before, this products like Heat and Bond make applique so doable for all of us who maybe have too much arthritis to do needle turn applique. It makes it doable for us. Okay, so now let's talk about this little guy here. I think I'm going to pull that. I've got just a tiny little bit of fabric that doesn't have Heat and Bond on it, so that's going to be really convenient to start pulling that Heat and Bond away. So I'm going to start pulling it away, but then I'm going to cut off that little piece, and I'm not even anywhere near where you can see it, and I'm going to cut off that little piece. Okay. Now, what we want to do is take the fabric side of this and see where we want to place this. So I think I'm just going to go like this. This is the great thing about having a table that you can iron on. You can also pin on it. Okay. You know, I think a better idea would be to first take off the paper. Okay, that's going to go there. Let's see if this paper will come off of there, because rather than do that a whole bunch of times, I would rather just take the paper off the once. There we go, I got it. Okay, that's going to go there. Okay, now we'll take the rest of this paper off. There we go. We're going to set him here. Let's see here. And we'll go like that. Stick him right there. Cut out a little piece. Put him there. Oh, this is so cute. So cute. And this way it brings the design down into the border. Isn't that fun? And one more little piece like that, and we better cut it off before it hits my table. There we go. I don't know if you can see all the way over here where I'm at. I didn't position that camera very good. Okay, so now I've got my little bee trail, and I'm just going to take those pins out a little bit as I come to them. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? There we go. So cute. And what an easy way to create that little broken line, is just make it in one strip. That makes it so easy. Okay, got that all down. Now, wasn't that just so easy? Okay, Now it's time to take all this back over to the sewing machine. Pick out an applique stitch. I'll probably just do a little satin. I will probably do the background in a black here, or I'll do the body and the head in black, and then I'll do white on the wings all the way around like this. And then I'll also do these in white. Oh, this is so much fun. Okay, let's go do that. Okay, I've switched back over to my Pfaff Expression 710. I love this machine. My Jukies do a straight stitch, and that's it. And I love my Jukies. And one of the reasons I love my Jukies is there's all kinds of space between the head of the machine and the base here. And I love having that little bit of extra space. But this is a fabulous machine, and I love it as well. Okay, so I've done some of the satin stitch here. I'm going to continue on and show you just a little bit more. I want my needle dropping just to the edge of the side of the applique on the outside there. Okay. And when I get to an area that I want to turn slightly, like right, I think it's right up there, I am going to stop with my needle down, and then I'm going to pivot just a little bit. And I want my needle down to the outside, okay? There we go. I'm going to pivot again in just 1 second. Okay, pivot just that little bit more. And this is where I'm going to want to stop right here. So now I'm going to do a reverse stitch just a little bit. Do a couple of those, come back a couple, and cut my thread. Now we're going to come up here to the head, and let's see, where do I want that? Right about there. Put my foot down, that looks about right. Need to get another, I do have a piece of paper underneath here, underneath, to just stabilize that a little bit. And of course that'll just come right off when we are finished with it. Okay, so I'm going to go forward a few stitches, and then I'm going to reverse just to get that set, and now we're on our way. Again, when I want to turn, I'm going to turn with my needle down in the outside position. Try and do that without knocking the camera over. Now, because there's a little piece of the head that goes over the antenna, I do have to sew that down too. So I'm going to sew the head, and then I'll go back and do the antenna. There we go. One more turn there. Make sure there's still paper under there. There is. Okay. One more stitch, and then rotate. Let's go back a little bit, and then go forward and cut. All right, now we'll head back up here and do these antennae. It's a lot of fabric to get through your machine sometimes, but that's okay. Where's that paper? Okay, it's way up there. All right, let me see where I am at here. There we go. Now, when you are doing an inside curve, you want to stop with your needle on the inside there. Rather than on the outside. But when you're doing an outside one, you want to stop with your needle in the outside position. Right, one more stitch. One more. There we go. And then we'll spin him. One neat thing about this expression 710 is that when you push the foot pedal, it automatically brings your foot down, and when you take your foot off the foot pedal, it automatically brings your presser foot. I'm sorry, it operates your presser foot. It automatically takes it up or down, depending on what you're doing with your foot pedal. One less thing you have to think about. One more stitch right there. And we're going to spin that one more time. Go right there. Do a couple back stitches, a couple forward stitches, and cut my thread. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this one done, and then it'll be time to change my thread to white and get this one finished. Y'all, this bee turned out so cute. I absolutely cannot wait to get it on Eleanor. Now, the next thing that we need to decide, hi, Domino. And evidently, Domino's going to help us. Don't knock the camera over. All right, back up. Bullet, shush. They all want to help. What color thread are we going to use? Are we going to match this in here and the bee, or are we going to go for a blue? So here's kind of a blue, Carolina blue, up in the, you really don't see that on camera, do you? Well, we could do the blue, or we could do one of these. This one's more of a yellow, this one's more of a gold. Those, either one would certainly look good there. I'll be honest, I'm kind of leaning towards the gold. I guess we'll see. Okay, so I've got you up really close to see this adorable bee and how it turned out. I love the little trail. I'll get you a close-up view of the quilting. It is so cute. I think it's called Wandering Bees, and it's just a little meander with some loops, and then there's this fun little smiling bee. I can't wait to show you that up close. Okay, on the back we've got a sweet little print, a little flower print, just tiny, tiny flowers. I thought that went really well with the bee, you know, because bees pollinate flowers. Theme of this quilt. Let me back the camera up so you can see the whole thing. Hi, Willow. Well, here's this adorable quilt all finished. I keep calling this a split rail fence. It's just a rail fence. I guess that goes back to my farming background, maybe, to have a split rail fence. Anyway, it is so adorable and so easy to do. And what a dynamic, vibrant quilt it makes. The bee, I just love the way it turned out. And it turned out 55 by 71 long. So a gracious size quilt. Shush, guys. And I love the way it turned out. It was so much fun to do. If you liked what you saw today, please like, share, and subscribe. Do all the things that make that algorithm sing. And until next time, stay quilting. Bzzz.